Welcome to day 9 of becoming a first-time home buyer. By now you've received quite a bit of information if you viewed the first 8 days of becoming a first-time home buyer. Today we're going to cross a subject that is critical to any time you're getting a loan, whether it's the first time, second time, or maybe the 15th time. But since we're dealing with first-time home buyers, let's talk about how your credit can impact your ability to be able to buy a home and how your credit plays a role in the specific product that you may be ultimately getting from a professional lender. So let's start with some basics. First of all, you and I might look at Credit Karma or maybe at our credit scores via our credit card banks, whatever that might be. Bear something in mind that is not the credit scores that your mortgage company is going to be looking at. Why? Because there's 9 different algorithms that the credit bureaus use to determine credit scores. The mortgage industry uses pretty much the most conservative of those 9. Therefore, our scores may oftentimes be slightly less than what you and I might find when we look at Credit Karma. Don't be alarmed. I use Credit Karma personally to monitor mine and see the progress. And the trend that I see in my credit scores on Credit Karma are very much the trends of my interest rates when I go out and I get a mortgage. So the trending is accurate. But again, the scores might be a little bit different. So that's point number 1. Next, let's look at how those scores can impact us. Well, the bottom line, the higher the credit score, the better the deal you're going to get from your professional mortgage lender in terms of its interest rate or private mortgage insurance if you're getting a conventional loan with less than 20% down. So there's all kinds of benefits to good credit. But let's face it, not everybody getting a loan, especially the first time, has the greatest credit. So what are some barometers to use? Well, as I tell people, you want to be at least over 600. That doesn't mean that you cannot get a loan if you're below 600, but I will warn you, it will be much more difficult, and there are some lenders that just will not even consider if your score is below 600. Now, most conventional loans will not go below 640. So if you're going to be between 600 and 640, that's going to probably lean us toward an FHA loan. If you're getting a VA loan, same rules apply. The higher the score, the better the deal. But bear something in mind. If you're down around 600, you can still get a VA loan. As a matter of fact, there are some lenders who will do VA loans below 600. But again, they're much more difficult to acquire and the terms are not going to be favorable. So what's the trigger point? Well, as I tell people, every 20 points that you are less than 780, you're going to see that the interest rate or the price for an interest rate is going to increase. Let's go back over that one more time. For every 20 points that you drop below 780, you're probably going to see either the interest rate a tad higher or the cost to acquire that interest rate to be just a little bit higher. But the rule, what you will find, the lower the credit score, the less you're going to get the best rate possible. Now, sort of a guideline that a lot of professional lenders will use, if you happen to be below 700, we're going to look real hard at FHA loans for you. Why? Because FHA is more lenient when it comes to interest rates on lower credit scores than conventional Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. Now, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have made some adjustments earlier in 2023 to compete a little bit more with FHA, but frankly, their PMI is higher, and so oftentimes if you get below 700, you're probably looking at an FHA loan. Again, at least you want your professional lender to guide you through that and present those options. Now, if you're between, say, 700 and 720, very likely you're right on that borderline. Am I going to be better off with conventional or better off with FHA? That's where you want your professional lender to guide you. Let them show you the difference that the pricing is going to be, that the PMI is going to be. In FHA, they call it MIP, but it's the same basic thing. Now, let's switch gears for a minute and talk about, Greg, what are some basic things that I can do to improve my credit score? Well, one of the very first things that you can do, improve your credit score, if there are any collections, non-medical collections. If there's any non-medical collections on your credit report, you want to get them to a zero balance. I recommend to my clients, pick up the phone and call the creditor, call the collection agency, and ask them if it's $1,000 that you owe or that they're asking for. You may be able to negotiate that down. I don't know if you'll get it down to $900, $800, or $500, but if you're prepared to pay it, they may take a settlement, something less than what you owe, and that'll make it a zero balance. Now, it's not going to come off your report, simply going to show a zero balance. And if it's a non-medical collection and it shows zero balance, you're going to see your score improve quite a bit. The next, remember this number. I call it the 29% threshold. Let's just take the example of a credit card that you might have, $1,000 high credit limit. If it has a $1,000 high credit limit, you never want that credit card balance to be above $300. Because if it's above $300, even though you may have made 20 or 30 or 40 on-time payments, you're not getting the full benefit of all those on-time payments. And as you approach 100% of the high credit limit, you're going to see your score drop. It's called card utilization. You want card utilization as much as reasonably possible below 30% of the high credit limit. That's why I call it the 29% threshold. Now, number 3, all on-time payments. As much as reasonably possible. You never want to have a payment that's more than 29 days late, because as soon as you hit that 30-day late period, it's going to show up on your credit report. And very few creditors, in fact, I don't know of any creditors, that will just remove a late payment unless you can substantiate that it was their mistake. That probability is highly remote. If you've got late payments on your credit report, especially if they're late payments in the last 12 months, your score has come down. So, what are the things that you can do? Number 1, make sure any non-medical collections are at a zero balance. Number 2, make sure that your card utilization, as much as you possibly can, is below that 30%. Remember, 29% threshold. Number 3, all on-time payments. I should mention a 4th thing. Don't go out and apply for any more credit. If you're buying a house, don't go buy a car. If you're buying a house, don't go try to get a refrigerator at some Labor Day sale where they're going to give you 0% interest because you're out buying a house. That inquiry is going to have a negative impact on your credit score. Don't put yourself in that situation. I know that's a lot of information, but I hope it was helpful. If you go to my YouTube channel, there is information in separate videos on the 29% threshold. Be sure to take a look at that. Thank you for joining me today.